There is a flood coming, one that doesn't discriminate by age, gender, race, religion, or ethnic origin. It's already begun, and as of yet, we don't know how deep the water is going to get. I'm talking about mental illness. Around 3 years ago, Dallas Theological Seminary partnered with one or more associations of Christian medical providers to hold an online conference, a day filled with lectures and presentations, all of which you could listen to and view from the comfort of your desk. And the purpose of the conference was to educate, or at least to familiarize clergy and religious leaders with the growing concerns surrounding mental health in our society and how to approach or address the many problems and causes of emotional and mental distress. One of the key takeaways from the conference was that all professionals, whether they were doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, or counselors, all agreed over the next few years mental illness is expected to increase tenfold or more. I would venture a guess that if we asked those same professionals today, they would double that estimate, if not triple it. The overarching goal of the conference was a call to action for spiritual and religious leaders to begin preparations to face the coming flood, to help stem the tide. Prior to the last worldwide flood, a righteous man received some very specific instructions on how to build an ark. If you like puns, we're in the same boat. In 2018, during what seemed at the time as the height of the opioid crisis, we held what we called a small resource conference at the church where I was pastor. We invited the public in, especially those with family or friends who struggled with any kind of addiction, drug, alcohol, etc., to meet with care providers like Alcoholics Anonymous and Smart Recovery and so on. In my opening remarks, I made the following statement. If it takes a village to raise a child, then we all bear some responsibility for the village idiot. It didn't go over well. If it takes a village to raise a child, then we all bear some responsibility for the village idiot. It was an accurate statement, and I meant every word of it, and I stand by it today. In his book, The Minister's Diagnostician, Paul Prosser wrote, pastors are seen by other professionals as first-line mental health workers, first-line social workers, first-line legal advisors, first-line counselors and caretakers in many aspects. My point with my somewhat controversial statement was this: it is no longer an option to not be a part of the resource or the solution. If other professionals view us as part of the front line, especially when it comes to mental health, then we are either one of the resources for the cure, the healing, the solution, or by our inaction or ignorance, we become contributors toward the problem. Part of being a pastor, a minister, a spiritual leader is to counsel. Pastoral counseling is best defined as a structured relationship between an individual and a pastor, minister, spiritual advisor. One that is directed at providing help in discovering, choosing, and attaining specific and appropriate goals consistent with Scripture and spiritual growth. Pastor counseling is a structured relationship, that's what I want you to hear, directed at providing help in discovering, choosing, attaining specific and appropriate goals. You are never the quick fix. You're not the expert. You're not the pit stop, or if you're a Pilgrim's Progress fan, you are not the pleasant arbor for weary travelers to refresh themselves before continuing on their journey. Through that structured relationship that you must build, you will become a part of that person's life journey for as long as they are willing to walk along with you. Why is it our responsibility? Why does our counseling look more like a commitment? Because a person who is emotionally disturbed, mentally tortured, or under duress for any reason is unable to establish mutually need-satisfying relationships. He or she is unable to love God and neighbor fully. Pastoral care and counseling aims at helping a person increase their ability to love God their neighbor, and themselves. Our mission is to do one thing: love them, to give them the capability to move beyond their isolation and into those relationships. All the problems we as pastors interact with, rush in headlong to help, caution and counsel. The causes within our realm we hope to conquer. And I'll give you the short list: abortion, homelessness, drug abuse recovery, alcoholism, marriage, family issues, HIV/AIDS, divorce, abuse, violence, law, justice system, educational issues, at-risk children, policy and politics, ethics, compulsive behavior issues, sanctity of life, health, fitness, disability support, and spiritual apathy. In all of those things and more, we should and do help people in those situations. We attend training, we gain knowledge and understanding. We sit in classes and lectures learning how to help people in those situations cope, overcome, heal, and grow. But all those things we like to call issues, causes, and problems aren't the problem. They are the result of a problem: an illness, a trauma, a loss, a stress, related all back to our fallen nature, if you like. The stream keeps flowing. Somewhere, sometime, something happened in someone's life that altered their thinking, which in turn stresses their emotions, and what begins as a mental health issue manifests itself in any and all of those problems that I just mentioned. A flood is coming, and we've been warned. Do we need to build an ark, a dam, or get better at swimming? In Ecclesiastes chapter 1, the teacher wrote, "A generation goes, a generation comes, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises, the sun sets, panting, it returns to its place, where it rises yet again. All the streams flow to the sea, but the sea is never full. The streams are flowing to the place, and they flow there again." Whether we're talking about the pursuit of wisdom or the sin of mankind, what we saw yesterday, we'll see again tomorrow. It's never ending. And this passage hit home with me when visiting a friend, Boo Martin. Boo owns Stepping Stone Farm and Event Center in Temple, New Hampshire, which offers, among other programs, a summer riding program, therapeutic horsemanship, programs for veterans with PTSD. We were discussing the multitude of young people in broken families affected by drug abuse and the crimes that seem to go along with it. And Boo said to me, "We are standing in the stream, catching babies as they float by. We must find a way to move upstream and catch them before they fall in." If the purpose of pastoral counseling is to build a structured relationship directed at providing help in discovering, choosing, and attaining specific appropriate goals, how can we move that approach upstream to catch what few we can? At what point can we meet them at the water's edge before they get wet? We may not have to. The flood may come to us. Standing at the back of the sanctuary, a middle-aged woman, as I was standing at the back of the sanctuary, a middle-aged woman, a new member who had only recently started coming to church, came up to me and said, "I don't think I can come to church anymore. The voices in my head when you start to preach are so loud, I can't hear you. The things that they say are so vile and vulgar, I can't even repeat them to you." What counsel or advice could you offer to her? How can you build a relationship with someone who can't hear you? On Sunday mornings, our attendance is just under 40 each week. Among them are 3 to 4 people who experience anxiety at such a level they can only manage to attend church maybe once, maybe twice in a year. How can we build a structured relationship with them if we can't get them here? Let me give you one more to consider. A mother and father come to me by appointment and begin by saying, our son has told us he thinks he might be gay. What do we do in those situations? Do we whip out our Bible and stake a claim of open and affirming to justify his feelings? Or should we demand his excommunication from the church and the family until he repents? When we talk about alternative lifestyles, gender identity confusion, however you want to define it, this is my fear. Every gay or lesbian friend I've had in my life has taken their own. Every gay or lesbian friend, except for one, that I had the privilege of knowing in my life, has taken their own life. Suicide. What I hear from these parents sitting in my office isn't that their son is gay, but that he has just announced he might be a candidate to take his own life. I firmly believe and will promote that suicide is a preventable death, and the prevention comes through a structured relationship, and it's your job to build it. I'm drafting a letter to the Commission on Ordained Ministry asking them that along with Baptist polity classes and ethics and healthy boundary classes, that we make it a requirement all candidates for ordination must also take mental health first aid or a related training. Mental illness is defined as a disorder: anxiety disorder, major depressive disorders, substance use disorder, bipolar disorders, eating disorders, schizophrenia, and so many more. If the other professions regard us as first-line mental health workers, we need to have the basic knowledge about mental health problems and be able to recognize the disorder while it is still in the developing stages, long before the problem manifests itself in other ways. The organization Mental Health First Aid USA in their training manual offers an action plan in approaching anyone who may show symptoms of any disorder, how to recognize, how to respond. They describe it as ALGEE, using the letters ALGEE to serve as a memory device. Upon your approach, you must A, assess for risk of suicide or harm. L, listen non-judgmentally. G, give reassurance and information. The first E, encourage appropriate professional help. And the second E, encourage self-help and other support strategies. That's your action plan when you encounter someone experiencing a mental health problem. How to catch them at the edge of the stream before they fall in. If you're a pastor, a minister, I want to push you even further from that edge. Perhaps we should start with the A, assess for risk, and the L, listen not judgmentally. With everyone we encounter every day, all day, not just the ones expressing the symptoms. Every person we meet, each time we meet them, assess and listen. I have a small friend, that tall, second grade student in the class I was teaching. We were having a conversation about whether or not I knew her parents. And she said to me, I have two fathers. Two, I said. And she replied, yes. My first father died when I was 5 years old. So I asked, did you get to know him really well before he died? And she said, not really. We only saw him on Sundays because he lived at Teen Challenge. 1 year prior to this conversation, which was probably within a year of her father's passing, she drew me this picture you see on the screen. A house of many colors. Kids draw pictures for me all the time. And I always tell them, I don't accept black and white pencil drawings. God made all manner of colors for us to see it. So I want to see colors in the artwork you create for me. Well, the little girl had a pen, one of those that has the 20 different colors in it. And she sat down and folded a piece of paper into that pentagon. And then she used every color in that pen to color the house. Well, there was a message inside of it. One is personal enough. I won't share it with you. But I will say this. Based on her note, what she drew for me is not a house. It's a home. The place where relationships exist. This was an invitation into a structured relationship, wherein, not in so many words, I was asked to hold her hand to keep her from falling into the stream. That's where we need to be. Boo Martin, you and me. We may never know what we saved them from. We may not be good at building arks and boats, neither do we need to be the best of swimmers. But we can all learn to build structured relationship that holds someone's hand before they fall into the stream of chaos and despair. Before we have to run downstream to pull them out before they hit the rapids and be lost forever. It may not take all of us to cure, to heal, to provide solutions, but it will take at least one of us. The problem with us is we have to care, or we become the village idiot. I encourage you, take the training, study the books, put it into practice, showing the love of a relationship that Christ has shown you. Do your work now before the flood gets any deeper. Another item I'll mention, I'll also recommend all pastors, church leaders, and teachers read the book, A Quiet Mind to Suffer With, by John Andrew Bryant. A part-time street preacher who had a mental breakdown, wound up in the psych ward, tells his story of how a relationship with Jesus Christ turned his mental illness into a servant and a guest of the mercy offered in the Gospels. Hear what he says. The worst things a person could be made to see and feel were seen and felt by Christ. He gives you some tremendous insight in the other side of the conversation that we all need to assess and listen to. Assess, listen, and love. That's where we begin before the flood comes. Thank you.